5 months ago, Monica sat at the kitchen table with her two children, 20-year-old Sophia and 18-year-old Leo, discussing her husband, Daniel. Sophia, frustrated, snapped, "Mom, why do you always complain about Dad? You sound like a spoiled teenager. He gives you everything, but it's never enough. What more do you want?" Monica, convinced she was right, replied, "I want excitement. He's too passive, never stands up for himself." Leo interrupted, his voice tense. Monica continued, ignoring him. "I have a plan. I'll push him until he loses his temper. Then, when he calms down, I'll make up with him and show my love. But I need your help." Sophia gave her a skeptical look. "I don't like that idea. If you really love Dad, you wouldn't do this." Leo objected immediately. "No way. I've pushed Dad too far before, and it nearly broke us. It took a year to rebuild his trust. Mom, it won't work. He doesn't give warnings, he just snaps. Don't do this." Monica dismissed his concerns and turned back to Sophia. "What do you think? I won't push him too far, but I need him to stand up to me." Sophia hesitated. "I'm afraid it'll drive us apart. I'll help, but if things go as Leo says, I'll side with Dad." Monica then looked at Leo. "And you?" "Absolutely not," he replied firmly. "If I see Dad suffering, I'll tell him everything." Despite her efforts, Leo wouldn't budge. The next morning, Monica put her plan into action. "Daniel, where's my coffee?" she yelled. "I told you I wanted coffee." Daniel, startled, came out of the kitchen with a fresh cup. "What took you so long?" she snapped. "Fresh coffee takes time," Daniel replied quietly. Monica's relentless behavior continued throughout their vacation. Leo tried to talk to his father, but Daniel remained calm. "It's between your mother and me. I'll handle it." Driving south on the A2 highway, the tension was thick. That morning, Monica had nearly pushed Daniel to his breaking point. He gripped the steering wheel, focusing on the road to control his anger, planning to confront her when they arrived. Sensing he was close to snapping, Monica stayed silent. After 3 hours, they arrived, set up camp, and ate lunch without speaking. Daniel took a long walk to cool off. When he returned, feeling calmer, he found Monica drinking with other campers. "Darling, shall we go to dinner?" he asked. "Can't you see I'm having fun?" "Back off," she snapped, laughing with the group. Daniel's face went pale as he noticed her hand on another man's thigh. "As you wish," he muttered and walked away. That night, Daniel withdrew as much money as he could, opened a new bank account, and called his boss to explain. His employer understood, granted him extended leave, and arranged for his pay to go to the new account. At 1 a.m., Monica stumbled back, drunk and oblivious. "Daniel, come here. I want you," she slurred. Through clenched teeth, Daniel replied, "No way. Who knows what's been in there tonight? Screw you." Monica collapsed onto the bed, fully clothed, and passed out. The next morning, she woke up hungover and nauseous. "Daniel," she croaked, but there was no answer. Crawling outside, she found him calmly eating breakfast. Well, not feeling great, are you?" he smirked. She tried to speak, but he cut her off. "Shut up and listen. Here are the car keys, papers, and your bank cards. I'm leaving." "Why?" she whispered weakly. "Shut your mouth while I'm talking," he snapped. "The question isn't when I'm coming back. It's if I'm coming back. And the answer is no." Panic washed over Monica. "No, this isn't how it was supposed to go." Daniel didn't flinch. After a moment, she whispered, "I love you. I just wanted you to be strong, to stand up to me." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Congratulations. I'm furious. Check the sheets when I'm gone. They're stained, just like when we got married. But last night, you smelled like a brothel. I wanted to talk about our marriage, but your behavior made my decision easy. Get tested for STDs." Without another word, he walked away. Overwhelmed, Monica collapsed on the bed, sobbing until she passed out. By evening, Daniel had found a small boarding house north of Hallsburg. Alone in his room, the reality hit him. His marriage was over. Leaving had been easy. Figuring out what to do next was the hard part. Meanwhile, Monica woke again, still nauseous. She groaned as she stepped in dried vomit, grabbed her toiletries, and stumbled to the shower. Hot water ran over her, but it couldn't wash away the guilt. Her memories of the night before were blurry, but one thing was clear. Her marriage was in ruins. Daniel had always been forgiving, but this was too much. She wept under the water. Miles away, Daniel sat alone, thinking. He needed to finalize the divorce and find a new place to live. His boss promised to help him find accommodations. In the meantime, he searched for an apartment. Back at the caravan, Monica returned to the overwhelming stench. She cleaned, trying to distract herself from the mess her life had become. Just as she sat down, her phone rang. It was Sophia. "Mom, why haven't you answered?" "I can't reach Dad." "What's going on?" "We had a fight," Monica whispered. "He left. I don't know where he is." "What did you say to him?" "You know how he gets when he's really mad." "Mom, you're in big trouble." "I know," Monica admitted. "I don't think he's coming back. This time, it's over." Her voice trembled. "Things happened that he'll never forgive. All I can hope for now is a civil divorce." "Divorce? What did you do to make reconciliation impossible?" Sophia demanded. Monica took a deep breath, gathering herself before explaining everything. Her harsh words, Daniel's biting responses, and the final blow that pushed him away. Sophia listened in shock. "Mom, you pushed every button just to get your way. I warned you from the start. I'll keep trying to reach Dad, but I'm not getting involved. You're on your own. Tell Leo yourself, he'll be furious. I'm not your messenger. You have 2 weeks to figure things out and get home. I'm not coming to help. Bye." Sophia hung up, her frustration simmering. Without wasting time, she dialed her father. The line was busy. She sighed, relieved. At least he's not hiding under a rock. 10 minutes later, she tried again. "Hello, Sophia," Daniel answered, his voice weary but steady. "How are you?" "Dad, you left Mom. Are we still a family?" Daniel's voice tightened. "Yes, I left her. Did she tell you everything?" "Probably not. Your mother left me emotionally 6 months ago. Yesterday, she told me to screw off in front of her new friends. So, I did. We're not a family anymore. My boss found me an apartment and a lawyer. I'll be renting a truck to move out. I'll send you my new address soon." Sophia shivered, hearing the bitterness in his voice. "I understand, Dad. One last thing. Who's going to tell Leo?" Daniel paused. "When you talk to him, just say we broke up. Don't tell him everything. It'll crush him. I told your mom she should explain it to both of you." They ended the call, and Sophia quietly cried. Meanwhile, Daniel was determined to move on. He tolerated many things in life, but not infidelity. The betrayal dug deep, reopening wounds from his first love, who had also cheated. Back then, he'd sworn never to accept that kind of betrayal again. Packing his backpack, he headed to the bus station. The next day, Daniel returned to what was once his home but now felt like just another building. He had a meeting with his CEO, Thomas Maxwell, and the lawyer arranged for him. After a sleepless night packing essentials and family heirlooms, he was ready. Knowing Monica would likely be out, he stopped by his office. Upon arrival, he was directed straight to the CEO's office. "Daniel, have a seat. Coffee's on the way," Thomas greeted warmly. "Did you get any sleep?" Daniel shook his head. Thomas continued, "Daniel, meet Miss Clara Peterson. She'll handle your divorce. You still want to proceed?" Daniel's voice trembled slightly. "Yes, as soon as possible. But I need rest first." Thomas nodded. "I just wanted you to meet her. You can contact her when you're ready." They exchanged numbers, and Clara left. Thomas leaned back. "Let's drop the formalities. I'm Thomas, you're Daniel. I've been through this, and I want to help. We've got 2 housing options, one in the city and one in the suburbs, close to public transport." Daniel chose the suburban apartment. Thomas smiled with relief. "Good choice. Here are the keys and the address. Rent is $750, deducted from your paycheck. Harold and a truck are ready to help with the move." "Thanks, Thomas." "You're welcome. But don't come back to work until you've spoken with Clara. If you need anything, you know where to find me." Daniel left, met Harold, and they drove to his new place, a 3rd-floor unit in a 5-story building with no elevator. It had a modest living room, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a half-bath, and a large balcony overlooking a park. Sparse but peaceful. I don't need much from the old house, Daniel said. Let's go. 2 hours later, they left his former home with only essentials, bedding, personal items, and a few mementos. Daniel left a note for Monica. You'll hear from my lawyer soon. Back at the campsite, Monica was livid. She was stuck with the car and caravan, but without a driver's license. After realizing she'd missed the last bus, she searched for her drinking buddies gone. The camp director confirmed they'd left. Sophia and Leo ignored her calls. Defeated, she trudged back to the caravan. The next morning, Monica set out to catch the 7 a.m. bus, only to be told by the campground manager it was for locals. The next one wouldn't arrive for another hour. She nodded, forced a smile, and kept walking. When Monica finally reached their street, she clung to a fragile hope. Maybe Daniel had cooled off. Maybe he was home. She opened the door. Daniel? Silence. She noticed the antique clock missing. Daniel's belongings, gone. She sank into a chair, the truth hitting hard. He wasn't coming back. She'd imagined a confrontation, some dramatic showdown leading to reconciliation. Instead, there was only emptiness. Daniel had always told the kids, what's worse, someone being mad at you or acting like you don't exist? If they're mad, they still care. But if they ignore you... Monica remembered how Daniel handled Leo's rebellious phase. When he caught Leo buying questionable stuff for a party, he didn't yell. He simply said, if you want to ruin your life, that's your choice. I'm out. Now Monica felt the weight of that same cold indifference. He wasn't angry anymore. He was done. She stumbled into the kitchen, opened the fridge, then slammed it shut. No, booze caused part of this mess. On the counter, she saw an envelope with her name. She tore it open. Monica, I've been humiliated enough. This marriage is over. I've hired a lawyer. You should do the same. No signature. Monica screamed, throwing the teapot and cup across the room, shattering them against the wall. I won't let this go. Almost a year later, Daniel had settled into a steady routine. Sleep, work, eat, repeat. One day, Daniel found the divorce papers in his mailbox. The process had been difficult. Monica had tried every possible way to reach him, but he ignored her. Financially, things were straightforward. Their incomes and savings were comparable, and their now mortgage-free house was worth over $500,000. Daniel's frugal lifestyle and long work hours had earned him generous bonuses, pushing him to explore investment opportunities. Deciding it was time for a fresh start, Daniel set out to find a new home, something with a garden, space for his motorcycle, a library, a high-end stereo system, a large kitchen, and 3 bedrooms. He searched online and through his work network until he found an estate agent he trusted. To celebrate this new chapter, he booked a ticket to Brahms' German Requiem, an oddly fitting choice. After the concert, still immersed in the music, he stopped by a nearby pub for a Dutch Ginevra. As he savored his drink, a voice interrupted, Daniel? Daniel Bennett? Is that you? A tall woman approached, her face vaguely familiar. I'm sorry, miss. Do I know you? He asked politely. She laughed. I'm Isabella Vaughn. We went to school together. I liked you back then, but I was too shy to talk to you. Daniel tried to recall, but came up blank. Smiling, he said, I should remember someone as beautiful as you, but I don't. Let me make it up to you. Can I buy you a drink? Isabella smiled. I'd love to, but I'm on a date. Can I get your number for another time? Just then, a man appeared behind her, clearly drunk. Baby, this is our date. You're supposed to be having fun with a real man. Unfazed, Daniel scribbled his number on a napkin and handed it to Isabella. The man snatched it from her hand. You're my girlfriend. I don't want you sneaking around with other guys. Isabella's eyes flashed with anger. You're drunk. I'm not your girlfriend. This was our first and last date. I'm calling an Uber. You're not coming with me. The man growled and raised his hand to strike her. Before he could react, Daniel stepped in, landing a swift knee to the man's solar plexus. The man staggered, gasping for air. Daniel gripped his collar firmly. Behave, or I'll make sure you regret it. Pay for her drinks and leave quietly. I'll call her an Uber. Deal? The man nodded weakly, paid, and left without another word. Isabella watched in awe. That's what I remember from school. You always stood up for people. But how did you handle him? He's twice your size. Daniel shrugged. I've practiced Krav Maga since I was 7. It helped with my anger issues, built confidence and self-control. An Uber arrived, and Daniel paid the driver. Get home safe, he said gently. The next day, Daniel's phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. Daniel Bennett. How can I help you? Hi, Daniel. It's Isabella. Are you busy tomorrow? I'm meeting a real estate agent to look at houses, he replied. Isabella sounded disappointed. Sensing this, Daniel quickly added, Actually, I'd appreciate your input. Women have a practical eye for these things. Want to join me? Isabella brightened. I'd love to. Do you know what you're looking for? Let's discuss it over dinner, Daniel suggested. I'll cook, or we can pick a restaurant. Isabella laughed. You can cook? When I cook, there are no complaints or leftovers. Really? I thought you lived on takeout. I've been a bit of a recluse. Last night was my first night out in a year. Why? Daniel hesitated. It's a painful story. I got my final divorce notice that day. Thought a requiem felt fitting. Isabella was quiet for a moment. That's rough, but I'll take a chance on your cooking. When should I come? Daniel gave her his address, and they agreed on 6 o'clock. At 6:05 p.m., Isabella nervously rang Daniel's doorbell. He opened it with a warm smile. Wow, you look stunning. Blushing, Isabella stepped inside. Thank you. May I come in? Of course. Lasagna will be ready in half an hour. I've got melon and parma ham for starters. What would you like to drink? The evening flowed effortlessly, though Isabella indulged in a bit too much wine. After dessert, she felt dizzy. Daniel noticed and spoke softly. I think I should take you home. You've had a bit too much. Relaxed and slightly emboldened, Isabella replied, Daniel, I'd rather stay with you. Realizing what she'd said, she blushed deeply. Daniel smiled gently. I'd love that, Isabella, but I have a rule. I don't sleep with women who've been drinking. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Half an hour later, they arrived at her place. Isabella looked down, embarrassed. I know you don't find me attractive enough, but can I have a kiss? Stunned, Daniel gently lifted her chin. Isabella, you're beautiful. I'd love to make love to you, but not when you're half drunk. I don't want you to regret it. I care about you, and I want this to last. Understand? Isabella nodded, touched. You're the first man who hasn't rushed things. I like you too. I'll wait. See you tomorrow? I'll make breakfast, Daniel promised. The next morning, Daniel arrived at her door, slightly nervous. Isabella opened it, radiant in casual clothes. You look amazing, he said. How am I supposed to focus on house hunting? Isabella giggled, pulling him into a hug. I've fallen for you too. This is just the beginning. After breakfast, Isabella changed into something more practical, and they met the real estate agent. The agent showed them 4 houses, 1 in the city, 2 in the suburbs, and 1 in a nearby village. Daniel immediately ruled out the city property. He wanted a garden. During the tours, one suburban house didn't feel right, and Daniel couldn't ignore how the agent kept flirting with Isabella. Growing suspicious, he checked the property's details and noticed it was overpriced. Frustrated, he confronted the agent. Are you trying to overcharge me and hit on my girlfriend? The agent blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? Daniel's stare was cold and unwavering. Exactly what I said. You're trying to cheat me out of an extra $100,000 and hit on my girlfriend. We're done here, Daniel snapped at the real estate agent, his frustration boiling over. Turning to Isabella, he added, Let's go. Outside, Isabella asked, surprised, Why did you react like that? Daniel sighed. The agent disrespected you and tried to scam me. I can't trust someone like that. We'll get the keys to the last house ourselves. At the agency, as they picked up the keys, Isabella hesitated. Am I your girlfriend? Daniel smiled warmly. Officially, no. But I was a bit jealous, and I'd like you to be. So, Isabella, will you? Caught off guard but serious, Isabella replied, You're not joking, right? I'm recovering from an abusive marriage. I can't go through that again. Daniel's expression softened. I'm as serious as a heart attack. Isabella's face lit up. I liked you in high school, and now you've confirmed why. Yes, I'd love to be your girlfriend. The house in Vermont seemed perfect, but structural issues surfaced. Daniel called in a specialist and a contractor to assess the roof and other repairs. Despite the needed work, it fit his budget. Frustrated with the previous agent, Daniel made an offer $50,000 below asking. Now we wait. It's late. How about dinner? 3 weeks later, after tough negotiations, Daniel bought the house. Both he and the seller were satisfied. Daniel paid nearly $40,000 less than the listed price, cutting the agency's commission, while the seller got $10,000 more than expected. Soon after, Daniel's company offered him an improved 3-year contract, which called for celebration. Over dinner, Isabella asked, "Your company deals in stocks, right?" "Yes." "Why?" "When I divorced, my ex tried to hide his assets, but his twin exposed him. He still wants those stocks. I need to transfer them." "I'll look into it tomorrow," Daniel promised. Later, he asked, "Are you ready to meet Sophia and Leo?" Isabella eagerly agreed. 2 weeks later, they met at a Turkish restaurant. Sophia and Leo quickly warmed to Isabella, until Monica unexpectedly appeared. "How did she know we were here?" Daniel muttered. "Maybe she's been following us," Sophia suggested. Isabella excused herself to the bathroom. Daniel took the chance to explain to his kids that Isabella was his first serious relationship since the divorce. When Isabella returned, however, she seemed upset. "How could you treat that poor woman like that?" she snapped, storming out. Monica smirked, attempting to engage Daniel, but he refused angrily and left to find Isabella. Sophia turned to Monica, her voice icy. "You're dead to me." Leo nodded in agreement. As they left, the restaurant owner asked Monica to leave, threatening to call security if she didn't. Furious, Monica found herself alone outside, stewing in resentment. "Daniel's walking away from me again," she thought bitterly. The next morning, Daniel tried to reach Isabella, but she ignored his calls. Even his letter was returned unopened. Devastated, he withdrew into a routine of work, sleep, and meals, avoiding social interactions except with his children and coworkers. 2 weeks later, Daniel was summoned to CEO Thomas Maxwell's office, where lawyer Clara Peterson joined them. Thomas's usual warmth was gone. "Daniel," Thomas began coldly, "are you aware of the no fraternization clause in your contract?" Surprised, Daniel nodded. "Of course." Clara leaned in. "You've been communicating with a client, Isabella Vaughn." "I knew Isabella before she became a client," Daniel replied, his frustration rising. "That's grounds for termination," Clara declared. "Hand over your laptop and phone." "These are my personal devices," Daniel retorted, his calm slipping. "If you're terminating me, I consider it wrongful dismissal." Maxwell, caught off guard, insisted the devices contained confidential information. Daniel stood firm. "I'm the account manager. That information is my responsibility." Clara finalized the termination, demanding a list of his accounts. "You'll hear from my lawyer soon," Daniel replied sharply. Months later, Daniel won his case. The company was ordered to pay his full contract and bonuses, and several clients followed him, transferring their business to his new firm. The judge dismissed the company's claims of account theft. Leaving the courthouse, Daniel called Sophia and Leo. "Let's celebrate." Back at his dream home, now complete with a library, large kitchen, garage, guest rooms, a gym, and a pool, Daniel maintained a strong exterior. But inside, he struggled. He bought a vintage BMW motorcycle, hoping to restore it, but lacked the motivation. Outwardly, he seemed fine, but he'd sworn off relationships, his trust shattered. Sophia and Leo met at a restaurant, ironically, the same one where Isabella had walked out on Daniel. They discussed his lingering depression, worried about his refusal to seek counseling or date. In the middle of their conversation, Isabella entered with another man. Before they could react, Monica appeared at their table. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" "I want to talk. This has gone on long enough." "I'm your mother," Monica replied. Leo stood up, his expression cold. "After what you did to Dad, you're not our mother. You nearly destroyed him." We won't tolerate it. You're not welcome here. I bet you had something to do with his firing. Ignoring Monica, Sophia called Daniel. Dad, we're coming over. What should we bring? Why? Daniel asked, surprised. Oh, this restaurant is infested. As they left, a man approached them. Hello, I'm Lucas Vaughn, Isabella's brother. I think my sister was misled about your father. Can we talk privately? Surprised, Sophia handed him her business card. Call me soon. My father is struggling, and we can't get him to relax, Sophia said, her voice tight with frustration. As you saw, our mother isn't helping. Lucas nodded thoughtfully. I could tell. Your mom's something else. Later, Lucas returned to Isabella. What are you doing, Isabella? That man still matters to you. Isabella sighed. Daniel wants nothing to do with me. Lucas crossed his arms. That remains to be seen. You haven't exactly handled things well since running away from that toxic ex. I think you still have feelings for Daniel. Take the chance. Without waiting for her response, Lucas picked up the business card Sophia had given him. Realizing he didn't know her full name, he shrugged and called anyway. The next morning, at 8:30 a.m., Sophia's phone rang. Sophia Bennett speaking. Good morning, Sophia. It's Lucas. We met yesterday. You're not too early, Sophia replied, her voice cautious. My dad's sinking into depression. You said Isabella still has feelings for him? Yes. She's been miserable since that night at the restaurant. I've made dinner reservations, hoping we could meet and talk. Fine. Text me the address. I'll bring Leo. Lucas smiled. Great. I'll cook. Bring wine and beer. Isabella likes wine. I prefer beer. Consider it done. See you at 5. Later that day, 5 people sat around Lucas's kitchen table. Sophia, Leo, Lucas, Isabella, and Lucas's wife, Emily. The table was filled with roasted chicken, vegetables, and fresh bread. Emily poured wine as Lucas served the food. Are we talking while we eat or waiting? Sophia asked. Lucas gestured for her to begin. Let's start. Sophia turned to Isabella. What exactly did our mother tell you about my dad? Isabella blushed. She described my ex-husband's abuse in detail, which triggered me. In the bathroom, she asked if Daniel had told me why he was divorced. When I said no, she claimed he'd verbally and mentally abused her for months and even cheated. Leo shook his head. Almost true, except it was the other way around. Mom abused Dad. She even got him fired on false charges. Sophia added, they had a photo of you and Dad from the day she lied to you. Isabella turned pale. I left a good man because I believed her lies. She began to sob. Sophia gently comforted her. Maybe there's still time to fix this. Emily spoke up. Your mother will always cause trouble. You need to deal with her first. Leo frowned. How? Let her back into your life, but on your terms. She must leave your dad alone and see a psychiatrist. Sophia and Leo exchanged looks, then nodded. We can do that, Sophia agreed. But what about Dad? Meanwhile, Daniel was swimming laps, trying to drown his frustration. Despite his physical fitness, emotional wounds from his failed relationships kept him guarded. That day, a female client hinted she'd move her business unless he dated her. Daniel declined, referring her to his old company without hesitation. After a long swim, Daniel heard the doorbell. Checking the camera, he saw Monica. His jaw clenched as he opened the door. Monica, whatever you want, the answer is no. Leave. He slammed the door and activated his security system, ready to file a restraining order if necessary. Monica, feeling confident after receiving a clean bill of health, had dressed to impress. But seeing Daniel's fit physique and his complete indifference shook her more than she expected. Moments later, Daniel's phone rang. What? He snapped, thinking it was Monica. Dad? His tone softened. Oh, sorry, sweetheart. Thought it was your mom. She was just here. What did she want? Didn't give her the chance to speak. Told her to leave. So, she's not trying to fix things? After everything she did. Months of cruelty, open cheating. Something inside me broke. I don't love her anymore. But she's still your mother. Don't do anything you'll regret. I've tried calling her, but she doesn't answer. She's blocked on my phone, but I still dream about her. I wake up missing her. Sophia's voice softened. Dad, when will you come out of your shell? I don't know. I'm not ready for therapy, and women think I'm easy prey. Can Leo and I come over for dinner tomorrow? Okay. 6 o'clock. Use your keys. I'll be swimming before I cook. Love you, Dad. Love you too. Sophia hung up, thrilled. She immediately called Isabella. Eva, be at my place tomorrow at 3:30. We're tricking Dad into thinking it's just me and Leo. Start thinking about what to wear. Isabella's heart raced. Thanks, Sophia. See you tomorrow. Meanwhile, Monica had been desperately trying to reach her children. Calls, letters, even knocking on their doors. All ignored. Finally, she managed to get Sophia on the phone. Mom, why are you calling? You know we don't want to talk. I needed to hear your voice. I miss you both. What do I have to do to see you again? Sophia's voice was cold. Dad doesn't need you. He's doing great. But Leo and I decided on 2 conditions if you want to talk to us. I'm listening. Anything? First, leave Dad alone. We know you scared off his girlfriend and got him fired. Joke's on you. He left rich, took clients with him, and he's thriving. So leave him alone. I promise. Second, see a psychiatrist. You're obsessed with Dad. You'll never get him back. Silence. Then Monica whispered, okay. Sophia hung up, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. The next day, Isabella arrived at Sophia's place, her nerves on edge. They drove to Daniel's house, hearts pounding. This wasn't just dinner. It was a chance to set things right. I don't know. I'll go with you. It's part of the deal, Monica said, her voice tinged with reluctant acceptance. And Leo? Sophia pressed. We've already agreed, Leo confirmed. Just let us know when your first appointment is, and leave Dad alone. Monica was thrilled. Despite disliking the conditions, she believed she could manipulate her way around them eventually. The next day, Sophia and Isabella arrived at Daniel's house. You look stunning, Sophia whispered. Isabella swallowed hard. I'm so nervous I feel sick. Surprise him in the pool. He won't run away there, Sophia suggested with a grin. Isabella hesitated, then took a deep breath and headed to the pool. She spotted Daniel swimming laps, his fit physique more impressive than she remembered. Gathering her courage, she slipped into the water. The current carried her straight into him. Instinctively, Daniel grabbed her, pulling her close as they drifted to the pool's edge. He hit the emergency button, stopping the current. His eyes widened with shock. Isabella? What are you doing here? Please, don't chase me away. Just let me explain, she pleaded. Daniel blinked, stunned but calm. I won't kick you out, but you've got a lot to explain. Sophia's voice called from the doorway. Blame me, Dad. There's coffee and tea in the kitchen. As they settled around the table, Daniel muttered. She jumped into the pool. Isabella smiled sheepishly. You wouldn't look up, so I had to. I won't do it again. Sophia leaned forward. Dad, we're not trying to meddle, but you've been so unhappy. We had to do something. That's when we met Lucas and Isabella. Daniel frowned. Lucas? My little brother, Isabella clarified quickly. Daniel sighed. All right. Just don't expect me to be thrilled. Let me hear the story. Isabella took a deep breath. When I met you, Daniel, I was fresh out of an abusive marriage. My ex started with verbal abuse, then it turned physical. The police wouldn't help unless I had bruises. Eventually, I ended up in the hospital, and now he's in jail. Daniel's face softened slightly. Isabella continued, then I met you. In school, you were independent, kind, always helping others. I felt drawn to you. When you asked me to be your girlfriend, I was over the moon. A month later, you introduced me to Sophia and Leo. That night, your ex-wife showed up. She called me your 5th girlfriend. I panicked and ran. I ignored your calls. Lucas convinced me she was lying, but by then, I thought it was too late. Daniel nodded slowly, remembering how he'd blocked her number. Isabella's voice quivered. I didn't have the courage to knock on your door. I was afraid you'd reject me. Daniel asked quietly, then how did you find the courage today? Sophia answered before Isabella could. Lucas, Leo, and I pushed her. And why the dramatic pool stunt? Daniel added, his lips twitching slightly. Isabella blushed. I needed your attention. I was scared, but I had to try. I'm so sorry I ran away without hearing your side. Can you forgive me? Daniel's eyes softened. Isabella, I told Sophia I still dream about you. Do you know Avalanche by Leonard Cohen? You became my avalanche. Tears welled in Isabella's eyes. Does that mean you'll take me back? Daniel shook his head gently. No. Isabella's face went pale. But, Daniel continued quickly, I never told you to leave. You left. So maybe I should ask, do you want me to come back? Yes, Isabella whispered. I was a fool to leave. Can I stay tonight? Before Daniel could answer, Sophia jumped in. Dad, one more thing. Leo and I decided to let Mom back into our lives, but on 2 conditions. 1, she leaves you alone. 2, she sees a psychologist. I'll go with her. Daniel nodded approvingly. That's wise. If it helps keep the peace, I'll be civil when I see her. That doesn't mean I'll invite her to dinner, but if you ever want a family gathering, you won't have to choose sides because of me. Oh, Daddy, Sophia sighed, kissing his cheek. You're the best. I'll leave you 2 alone. As she left, Isabella hesitated. Should I go too? Daniel chuckled softly. I've got a spare bedroom, but wherever you sleep, you'll find me in bed. Isabella blushed, her heart racing. They spent the night talking, eventually falling asleep side by side. In the quiet of dawn, Daniel stirred first. Without overthinking, he whispered, Will you marry me? Isabella sat up abruptly. What? Will you marry me? He repeated. She stared at him, speechless. Then she whispered, Do you really want to marry me? You don't have to. I'm yours, with or without a ring. Daniel smiled. That's enough for me. But for me, it's about commitment. Consider us married. Now, do you want to move in, or should I? Isabella laughed. I'll get my things. I don't have much after my divorce. Daniel kissed her forehead. You have me. That's all that matters. The next morning, Daniel called Sophia and Leo with the happy news. After breakfast, he and Isabella went to pack her belongings. A year later, Daniel watched Isabella swim gracefully, having overcome her fear of water. As he walked back to his office, he detoured to the mailbox. Sorting through the mail, he froze when he saw an unstamped letter with familiar handwriting. He groaned softly. Daniel, Isabella called from the doorway. Look at me. He glanced up, his heart heavy. That letter's from Monica, isn't it? Isabella asked gently. Daniel nodded, unsure whether to open it or leave the past sealed shut. We talked when we met at Leo's, Isabella said softly. Her counselor helped her realize her mistakes, and she's trying to make amends. Please read the letter. It'll help you understand. Daniel grumbled. I don't need a relationship with her. I just want to be left alone. Isabella took his coffee, sat on his desk, and said firmly, You need to, or she'll keep haunting you. Read the letter. Reluctantly, Daniel nodded and opened the envelope. Dear Daniel, I still think of you as Dear Daniel, even though you don't feel the same. I know from our children that you don't care about me anymore, and it shocked me. But I need to tell you, I'm sorry. When you left, you said you were so angry there were no words. Now, I don't have the words to describe my regret. I destroyed our marriage and tried to ruin your life. Sophia and Leo made me go to counseling, and it was brutal. The counselor said I was jealous, selfish, and entitled. They were right. I hurt you terribly. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. The children said you'd be civil, which you can do by ignoring me. I've dated other men and realized I threw away something irreplaceable. Please let me into your life for the children's sake. I won't pursue you or invade your life, but when we meet, will you talk to me? I long to hear your voice. With remorse and love. Monica. Daniel stared at the letter, his expression unreadable. Isabella waited silently. Finally, he sighed. I'll think about it. Don't expect an answer soon. I don't like people prying into my feelings. Isabella started to respond but stopped when she saw the cold, distant look in his eyes. She simply nodded, giving him space. Later, Daniel retreated to the garage to work on his 1949 BMW R24 motorcycle. But no matter how hard he tried to focus, he couldn't shake the emotions swirling inside him. By dinner, he was still silent, pacing the room. "Beloved," Isabella said gently, "how can I help? Do you want to talk?" Daniel snapped. "Can you cancel that letter? I wish I'd never read it. I feel blackmailed by my kids." Isabella flinched at his harsh tone. "That's not true. No one's forcing you." Daniel's frustration boiled over. "Really? You discussed this with Sophia, Leo, and my ex-wife, then pushed me to read it. How's that not persuasion? I said I'd think about it, but right now, I feel like an idiot. Maybe I'll go away to clear my head." Isabella's face paled. She hadn't expected this reaction. "Tomorrow, I'm taking the caravan to Limburg. I'll book a campsite." The next morning, Daniel drove south, grumbling. "Just when I think I'm free of her, she pulls another trick. And the only available campsite is where it all started." Back in Vermont, Isabella tried calling Sophia but couldn't reach her. Finally, she got through to Leo. "Hi, Isabella. Is everything okay? You usually call Sophia." "Leo." Daniel read Monica's letter yesterday. It went badly. He felt manipulated, didn't say much, and just left for Limburg with the caravan. "I don't know what to do." Leo cursed under his breath. "That's unexpected. I'll contact Sophia and tell Mom. All we can do is wait and hope Dad calms down. Stay strong. He'll come back." Despite Leo's reassurance, Isabella couldn't shake the fear settling in her chest. That afternoon, Daniel arrived at the campsite, set up camp, and went exploring. His heart nearly stopped when he recognized a familiar face, the sleazy real estate agent who had infected Monica with syphilis. Rage surged, but the man didn't notice Daniel. The next morning, Daniel approached the campground manager. "I know those guys are trouble," the manager admitted, "but without proof, I can't act. I do have a CCTV camera on them." Daniel smirked. "And if I provoke them?" The manager grinned. As Manuel from Faulty Towers would say, "I know nothing." Daniel chuckled. "You're from Barcelona, huh? We understand each other." With a plan forming, Daniel greeted the men casually later that day. "Good morning, gentlemen." The agent squinted. "What do you want?" "Nothing. Just offering coffee since we're neighbors. You look like you could use it." The man eyed him suspiciously. "Why?" "Looks like you had a wild night. And I'm here alone. Thought I'd be neighborly." After a pause, the man relented. "Call me Victor. Bring something strong. It's ladies' night. My buddy's coming too." "Sure," Daniel replied. "What time?" 3. Daniel bought brandy, whiskey, and Dutch Geneva, replacing most of the Geneva with water. At 3 p.m., he joined them, discreetly recording on his phone. Victor's friend was there with a young woman. "Hi, I'm Chloe," she smiled. Daniel leaned toward Victor. "Bit young, isn't she?" "She's 19. Who cares?" Victor replied with a grin. "You'd be surprised how easy it is to get a girl on her back." Daniel's stomach turned. "What if she doesn't want to?" "That's easy," Victor sneered. "But I prefer when they're willing." Daniel watched as Victor spiked Chloe's drink, starting with wine and moving to cocktails. After dinner, she was clearly drunk but resisted their advances. Victor grew aggressive, whispering, "Time to use Daddy's little helpers." Daniel ensured the CCTV had a clear view while his phone kept recording. Pretending to leave, he muttered, "Which one of you needs syphilis treatment?" "Oh, both." Victor's friend turned red. "How do you know that?" Daniel's voice was cold. "My ex-wife treated you, idiot. And now that I see what you are, I'm stopping it." Victor lunged with a knife. Daniel staggered back, collapsing into a chair as sharp pain tore through him. "Isabella," Leo's voice was urgent on the other end. "Dad, he's in the hospital. He was stabbed. The police want to arrest him for assault." "What? Is he okay?" Isabella's voice trembled. "He needs surgery. They called me. Sophia and I will pick you up so we can see him." "Okay. I'll pack a bag." The car ride was tense. Leo drove fast but carefully, the silence broken only by Isabella's soft sobs. "I wish we hadn't given him that letter," Sophia whispered. Leo gripped the wheel tighter. Dad doesn't fight unless he has to. He must have been defending himself. I almost feel sorry for the other guy. 2 hours later, they arrived at the hospital. Officer Janssens met them at the entrance. Good evening. I'm Officer Janssens. Who are you? After introductions, Janssens said, Mr. Bennett is no longer a suspect. CCTV footage and phone records confirm it was self-defense. He saved a woman from being assaulted. 2 men attacked him. He's quite skilled. They'll regret taking him on. 2. Isabella gasped. Sophia cut in. How is he? Is he in danger? I don't know. You'll have to ask the doctors. After navigating the sterile hallways, they finally found the right room. A nurse informed them Daniel was in surgery. His condition was serious, but he was expected to pull through, despite significant blood loss. You can wait here or rent a guest room across the street, the nurse offered. We'll call you when he's out of surgery. What's that noise? Daniel thought groggily. His head throbbed, and his mouth felt like sandpaper. He tried to speak, but his tongue was heavy, his lips sealed. A deep voice cut through the haze. Ah, there he is. Mr. Bennett, if you can hear me, raise your right hand. With effort, Daniel's fingers twitched. Good. I'm Dr. Marcus. You just escaped death, so stay calm. I'll free you from some restraints and wet your mouth. Then you'll see some anxious faces. But don't overdo it. The doctor gently removed the breathing tube, then opened the door for Isabella, Sophia, and Leo. As Isabella rushed to his side, tears streaming, Dr. Marcus muttered, "Lucky fool," before leaving quietly. Isabella grasped Daniel's hand. What happened? I shouldn't have given you that letter. Daniel managed a faint smile. No, it cost me, but now I have a clear answer to Monica's letter. His eyes fluttered shut. I'm so tired. Later, they met with Dr. Marcus. The knife nicked a major vein, but we stabilized him in time. He'll be sore and numb, but can go home next week. No martial arts for 3 months. Leo raised an eyebrow. How do you know my father practices Krav Maga? The doctor smirked. Krav Maga explains a lot. Officially, I can't say much, but you should see the other 2 guys. One will need a cane for life. The other? He's eating through a straw. A week later, Daniel sat at home in an armchair, holding Monica's letter. His face was somber. When I first read this letter and went camping, he said softly, I considered letting Monica back into my life. 3 pairs of eyes locked onto him. But the men at the campground, the ones who attacked me, were the same ones Monica was with almost 4 years ago. They trusted me, not realizing who I was, and revealed everything. He sighed heavily. Turns out, she gave them the venereal disease, not the other way around. She got drunk after their fun, not before. She cheated on me long before our marriage ended. He crumpled the letter slightly in his fist. She's absolutely not coming back into my life. But I'll treat her like a stranger. I don't want you 2 choosing between parents. It's my responsibility to tell her that, so please, don't interfere. Promise us you'll be okay, Sophia whispered. Daniel nodded. I will. 2 weeks later, Dr. Marcus cleared Daniel to start light exercise, supervised by a physical therapist. 6 weeks after the fight, still unsure how to face Monica, he decided to improvise. He chose the same restaurant where Monica had tried to sabotage his relationship with Isabella. Now, after counseling and time, Daniel and Isabella's bond was stronger than ever. When Monica arrived, with her counselor, Daniel stood, unfazed. Monica, you brought company for a private conversation? Monica fidgeted, clearly uncomfortable. This is my counselor. She's here for support. Daniel chuckled darkly. Still trying to manipulate me? Maybe I should have brought mine. The counselor bristled, but Daniel gestured toward the table. I promised you dinner. Let's sit. Throughout the meal, Daniel remained polite but distant. He barely touched his food, sipping water while observing Monica's nervous glances. After dessert, he set his fork down. So, Monica, what do you want from me? She nearly choked on her ice cream. The counselor jumped in. Sir, that's rude. Monica is trying to resolve. Daniel cut her off. Difficulties? You have no idea the hell she put me through. Turning to Monica, his gaze hardened. You know I was in the hospital, right? Monica swallowed. Yes, but I don't know why. The kids didn't tell me. Do you want to know? Both women nodded hesitantly. Daniel leaned back. After I read your letter, I needed to clear my head. I went camping, right back to the place where your adventures unfolded. Monica's face drained of color. There, I met the men you were with. They didn't recognize me. I gained their trust, recorded them bragging about their conquests. When I objected, they attacked me. One had a knife. The counselor opened her mouth, but Daniel raised a hand. No interruptions. He pulled out his phone. I have part of the recording. You'll listen. The recording played, filling the air with crude laughter, sickening boasts, and damning admissions. When it ended, silence lingered like a thick fog. Tears streamed down Monica's face, her lies laid bare. Daniel's voice was cold, steady. They only recognized me after that recording. I didn't need to trick them. They were proud to tell me everything. He leaned forward slightly. You cheated on me long before our marriage ended. You humiliated me for 6 months, broke our vows, and destroyed everything we had. Your grand finale at that campsite sealed it. Standing, he tossed a few bills on the table. To paraphrase you, Monica, can't you see I'm in good company now? Without another word, Daniel walked out, leaving Monica crumbling under the weight of her own regret. At home, Isabella greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes full of love. Daniel exhaled, finally free.